Hey guys, we're going to begin in about 2 minutes. So good afternoon, good morning. My name is John Park. I am the Director of Sales Engineering for Smart Insights. Thank you for joining the webinar today, and we're going to definitely talk about exploring data without ETL. So before we begin, I want to thank you guys, as well as just want to talk about a little bit about what Mugen is. So Mugen is our product that we're bringing out to the market, and what Mugen stands for is infinity. So our value prop of Mugen, as you will see, is one of them is really able to integrate infinite amount of sources and be able to connect, explore, and discover your data the way you want to. Smart Insights is the company that Mugen was produced out of, and we are a company based really out of Japan, and we've been working with automotives for the last 10 years. And what this company does is really understand how to help customers really develop solutions around recalls and manufacturing problems. What we did in Japan about 10 years ago is started working with automotives to figure out how to handle complex bill of material issues. There's many issues that are happening about what parts are causing recalls, or what parts are having manufacturing issues, and how quality is affecting sales. We have a deep experience in that field, and in the last 2 years we've been growing out of that field into consumer goods like Canon, as well as finance and gaming companies like Bandai Namco. So to start this webinar off, I just wanted to kind of frame what this webinar is going to be about. We want to talk about challenges in data discovery. The biggest challenges, as we see from Smart Insights, is that there's so many variety of sources. There's unstructured, semi-structured, structured, and what we're used to is having everything structured, being in spreadsheets or being in reports, and then because of the emergence of big data or emergence of data explosion, we're seeing the typical unstructured and semi-structured sources coming into play, and we're trying to figure out, get insights from it. That's one of the challenges we saw. The second challenge we saw when we developed Mugen was the emergence of data silos in cloud. I think in the past 10 years, starting with Salesforce.com to Workday to NetSuite, a lot of our customers are moving from their internal systems to use systems in cloud, and these are giving us challenges when we're trying to get a 360 view of a customer or a process or getting these reports right. And the other challenge is it's getting very expensive to do these ETL processes, meaning you need a lot of servers, you need a lot of work horsepower to get this done, and you need to find right type of labor. It's very labor intensive. How we address those challenges is really what this webinar is going to talk about, and how we, from Musion's standpoint, the challenges of data discovery really stems with us with traditional reporting only looking at structure and not having the smart search, able to search through where each data set is, not having a catalog or really a deep profiling way of looking at data, as well as automation and ETL. So with the drawing I'm trying to illustrate for you is this, is that we look at the ETL process in this whole data discovery data exploratory field as the slow-moving snail that slows down everything and causes you to spend a lot of time doing this. So why do we develop Musion? Why are we doing this? Is we believe the data agility, the volume, the variety, the veracity that people talk about in big data is getting solved, but really we believe the data agility is what makes us different. And the data agility actually is the competitive edge. It's not really, everybody's able to store a lot of data, process a lot of data. They have machines, algorithms that are able to do that, but how fast can you, when new sets of data, new data comes in, how fast can you extract insights and values out of there? With this Musion, we have this whole concept of data ops, which is becoming mainstream, and we used to call it something else, but it's really, I think data ops fits right in, is that we have to create a solution that reduces hours you spend on ETL or data integration, hours you spend on data quality, hours you spend on data engineering, and have that continuous integration. So when a user says, hey, we have a new program, we're going to use a SaaS service, and we want to integrate that in there, it becomes easier for the users to get that data integrated, take a look, and try to match those data together. What we try to create with Musion is this whole platform that has a lot of automation and a lot of integration built in to help users move on. What's our value proposition? What are we trying to, what are we trying to tell to our users or tell to customers or prospects like you, is that what the problems we're solving really is overcoming these data silos. When we mean data silos, we're not meaning just internal data, and we're not just meaning structured data like Excel and databases. We're also meaning unstructured data like your Solar, where data is coming in, as well as cloud sources, as well as semi-structured data. What our technology is really based on is this whole notion of using a graph database, or we call it the enterprise data graph, to autonomously create connections between different sets of data, different unique values and different entities to enable smart search, as well as enable autonomous correlation. The algorithm I continue to reference is called autonomous correlation algorithm that we built in with Musion platform. Will actually build a graph database and look at entities and figure out how these entities are related to each other, and if there's a good way to look from one source system to another source system and look at this whole flow of things. The last two things I think is very important is the premise of being able to search. I think search is the way to look at data, way for everything to be started, regardless it's analytics, regardless it's searching the web, searching documents. I think search is the fundamentals of all this. So what we built with Musion and the enterprise data graph, or the EDG, is this search mechanism to be able to search data sets. The last thing is we are an enterprise platform that allows you to look at the analytics and only surface the data that's relevant to you, not everybody else, and it ensures integrity, and we have the governance platform on it. So next slide I'm going to go is how do we eliminate those silos, right? We eliminate the silos by actually building an enterprise data graph and running two algorithms, a heuristics index algorithm and a autonomous correlation algorithm. What they allow us to do is to really look at sources as they come in and connect the sources or connect the dots, right? What you see on the graph is, what you see on the screen is our screenshot of an enterprise data graph, which shows you how each source system, whether you see the Solar National Highway Traffic Safety Association complaints database connected to the recalls database via these columns. And this is how we look at this, is that with a graph, rather than creating a global schema, you're able to, and with algorithm like we have with autonomous correlation algorithm, you're able to connect the dots. You're able to see how things are connected together. So without building a single large global schema and moving all the data into one pieces, Fusion is able to create a graph database behind the scenes and give you this view. So how do we make the ETL problem go away? So a lot of people are, saying ETL is, a necessary evil and something that we have to do. But what Fusion does is that we leave the data as is in the source, and we continue to query. However, what we need to do is build that enterprise data graph layer, which sometimes people call the metadata index or the search index of our technology. And once that's created, you are querying data at a source. The enterprise data graph, EDG, only has the unique entities. We query the sources and we cache the results for analytics to be done. As you see on the diagram, it is all API driven, and we have our own dashboards as well as we work with third-party tools to query the sources and get answers out. We do have a patented technology called data chains. When you build the graph, the beauty about building a graph is it allows you to use that graph to figure out how one data set is related to another, and that's the whole premises behind the data chain. And we are able to move from one source to another source seamlessly and be able to query different data sources easily. And this is I think this is a paradigm difference, and this is what we have to defer, so you don't have to do as much ETL to make a global schema. So why is search important? Search is important because it allows you to, search across and figure out, without have pre-knowledge or training where your data is to figure out where get the relevant information. With Fusion, having the enterprise data graph allows us to create a search interface, just like Google or Amazon. It gives you relevant results and where those results are. As you see on the screen is when we search for a keyword or just any search phrase, it looks at your whole enterprise data. It says this is where that keyword is, and these are places that it occurs in. And when you actually do a search on one of those data sources and what the keyword is, it actually gives you the recommended dashboards. And I think this is a different way business users will interact. And really, by searching, you're actually reducing that ETL, because your data doesn't have to fit a specific format, and it doesn't have to conform to a certain level of detail. So searching really helps Fusion uncover the insights easier than on any other tools on the market right now. We're going to talk about a couple of customer use cases. How they're using Fusion without ETL to really solve their problems. Honda, our customer, really, they came to us because they wanted to do sensor or electronic computer unit out of a car. Whenever you go into a dealership, they actually download your driving record or your sensor readings, and they actually store that in the dealership. They have all this data, and how they were asking themselves, how do we really correlate that data? How do we actually look at that data? And what they did with Fusion is that these are terabytes and terabytes of data that are getting loaded in every time a car comes into a dealership. And what they're doing is they're collecting it and storing it in a repository and allowing Fusion to look at the key values and the semi-structured terms of what the sensor logs are telling you, and they're able to do analysis easily. What the customer said was they were doing 3 to 7 days of ETL and tuning on the database to get the same result that it was taking Fusion probably 3 clicks and 15 plus seconds. So what we allow you to do is push down the workload, take the analytics to the data, as well as give you the flexibility to work with systems that are using semi-structured data like here. Our second use case is about with Mitsubishi Electric. So Mitsubishi Electric is a a part of Mitsubishi that produces navigation and infotainment system. And their use case really came to us because speaks to us because they were dealing with geospatial and usage data. This is data that is collected on the actions you do on the navigation and infotainment system throughout the day when you're driving your car. What do you do when you drive inside the city? How do you interface with your navigation system? How do you interface with your entertainment or infotainment system? Do you turn the radio up when you go in the city? Do you look for a restaurant? Do you look for gas stations? So those type of products are what what Mitsubishi Electric wanted to develop, right? To kind of anticipate the user movement. But when the data came in, it was geospatial, semi-structured data that was very, it was not very structured, uniform like traditional reporting, and they couldn't work with traditional reporting platforms. So what Musion was able to do with its APIs was pull that data together and give us, an analytics on what's happening and what's happening real time, because the navigation infotainment system, certain ones were streaming data as you were going through. So what does this platform do, right? Without really going to it, this platform is a platform that has a graph database that does autonomous correlation and indexing, and on top of that we placed a algorithm for smart data chains and a interface for search. And one of the things I think the value we like to talk about when we talk about ETL is there's ETL, you do need to do ETL because to clean up and correlate sources is hard, but with our autonomous correlation algorithms, that have interfaces to anything like solar or structures like Teradata or your relational databases such as Oracle and SQL Server, you are able to connect all those up, create a enterprise data graph, and actually access all that data. This is really about connecting the dots, taking your legacy data and then putting it together and connect the dots so you could actually start doing analytics without moving into a single location. What are we really, what is Musion's use cases, and what do we do for our customers? Currently with our technology, we're good in these 5 use cases. The data warehouse augmentation use case is very, very popular, right? You do have a data warehouse, but you are starting to go into like cloud, SaaS type of sources such as Salesforce.com, and you want to bring that in and see that Salesforce.com data as well as your data warehouse. With Musion, you don't have to download all the data from Salesforce.com into your data warehouse. You can connect you can have a multiple connection, a connection to your data warehouse and a connection to your Salesforce.com, and actually using Musion's ability to merge or fuse data, you could actually look at those 2 data sets together without actually physically creating a global schema and moving that together. And that's been very popular with our users and customer prospects. IoT or machine sensor data. Before it was really called IoT, we started doing sensor data working with Honda, and the structure of the data, which usually comes in semi-structure, and usually it has the quality issues, and it's just a lot of volume, and the way it needs to be queried is not a traditional ODBC, JDBC. Really, having that API capability, the machine IoT data has been great for us. We've really been able to accelerate insights for customers like Honda and Mitsubishi. You saw bringing that data and showing insights quickly. The big data discovery analytics is that we view Musion as a hub of connecting up to infinite number of sources and doing your analytics and connecting up and getting graphs and analytics out without really having to build a data lake or a data warehouse right now. And that use case has been popular because number of repositories or data sources in enterprises or any company has been growing exponentially in the past. The 360 view of the customer and 360 view of the products or programs we have to help customers develop new products faster and improve products, as well as understand behavior of the customers. And this really stems down from our paradigm of search, right? If you put all your parts database and then your claim, your warranty and your claims and complaints database, you could actually look at saying what are, what are the top issues of warranty? What are, because it all goes down to a graph database that's searchable. As far as the customer is, how are the customers actually using the product? When they bring it in for repair or when they bring it in to, when they do their surveys, what are they saying? Because one of the key differentiators, we work so well with unstructured, semi-structured sources, you can stitch the unstructured with the structured source and get insights a lot faster than other tools in the market. So this is the architecture. Before we go into the demo, the architecture really shows us how it really works behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, we are a platform that has it's really fundamentals of it is based on the enterprise data graph, as you see in the screen, and the data graph. Underneath the data graph, we have a virtualization layer called the Unified Data Access Layer, which allows you to connect any source. As long as it has either, for a structured source, we usually go through a JDBC. For unstructured source, we have, or semi-structured source, we go to a REST interface. So we've been able to connect to your traditional sources such as Oracle or DB2, but we've also been able to connect through S3, Salesforce, and big data sources because we work with these standards and we're so flexible in here. And on top of that, once you build the data graph, we have a search interface that you're able to search and star the graph for all type of answers, just like you do on Google or Amazon that give you relevant information. We also have data chain that allows you to move from one source to another source using the linkages. So for Mugen, it's really important for Mugen to know how data is linked from one source to another, and the data chain algorithm or mechanism allows you to do that. And then on top of that, we have your dashboards, your APIs. You can use any type of tools or any type of graphics to take advantage of the data graph. So I think I spent about 20 minutes going through the deck, and that's really good. The demo we're going to really look at is we have a demo on automotive data, and inside there, the demo we've loaded data sets for NHTSA, which is National Highway Traffic Safety Association, KBB, which Kelly Blue Book, I believe a lot of people that are calling in from the States understand, Edmunds, an investigations database, complaints, and recall. The systems that are behind this are really we have traditional systems like Oracle, MySQL, and SQL Server, but we also have unstructured source systems that are coming up like Solar and Elasticsearch. We do have AWS services, and all these are running inside AWS, and I like to remind you that anytime we query a data source, we're actually pushing down. This is real live queries. And we do have a single Smart Insight server in the AWS cloud, and that's how it runs. In the demo, I want to kind of go through how easy it is to explore your data without ETL. How easy it is to create a connection. How easy it is to look at that connection on a data graph and look for like a root cause analysis, and how easy it is to do analytics on top of the data graph. So without any further ado, I'm going to go over to my demo screen. So Mugen, when you start Mugen, you're definitely going to go into a web interface, and this is it's just a browser, and inside there you will see that it is an HTML5, and once you install Mugen, you just get a username and you log in. Once you log in, you go into your last dashboard. So we're going to take the persona of a data steward or IT manager, and I want to show you how easy it is to add a new data source. So I'm going to go to Data Studios, and in this screen, hold on. In this screen, you're going to see that we have, for our demos, we have about, I think, 15 sources. And as you see, what Mugen does is it uses either a REST endpoint or a JDBC connection string with a driver to access the metadata and pull it through. How easy it is to connect a new data source is easy because we're not creating a global schema. We're based on enterprise data graph. All you have to do is click new, and you pick the type of source system you want. So for this, I just want to use Redshift, and you copy, since we have all the drivers pre-installed, copy your JDBC connection there, and then you put your password for Redshift, and you hit create. So what we do at this, sorry. There we go. So what we do at that point is that we actually go and scour all the metadata out of Redshift, and then you get to use either a table or a custom query to define the data sets you want to bring into the enterprise data graph. So what happens is that, let's say we want to pick, I'm going to go pick KBV new vehicles, and I'm just going to type in test. What happens at this point is that it looks at the metadata, and we create this enterprise data graph by looking at all the fields that are text or varchar less than 255, and we bring it in and we create entities out there. And after the entities are created and it's tagged with what source it comes from, and it's with definite metadata, what column it is from, the unique entities are created inside our enterprise data graph, and then we actually run an autonomous correlation. That's the association between these, KBV make and model, and what other columns are very similar or not, right? So that gives you the ability to do that. I am going to not save this because I've already done one for you and actually ran it, because if you run the creation and the EDG, it will take autonomous correlation. It will take about 5 minutes. I don't want to. So if we go to the one that's already been done in Kelley Blue Book, what you see is you see the same thing here, and what you see when we actually go into our text field is that you want to model make, it tells you, right? After we run the autonomous correlation, it tells you this supplier is a MySQL database. There is a field called make, and it's very highly similar because the unique values that are coming out are very similar. As well as when you look at SQL Server and this BOM database of SQL Server, there is a field called model, and it's a medium. So Musion actually figures this out for you. This is why it actually is doing what data stewards or ETL developer will do, looking at columns, profiling, see if things can be joined together. If it's high, if the similarity is high, the system knows that it can join or cross over to another source system looking at high similarity. I want to show you actually an enterprise data graph for Kelley Blue Book before we go on. So in Kelley Blue Book, you said we talked about recalls, right, or recalls and sales. So we actually look at here. This is a graphic of how our data graph for enterprise graph database is shown, and it's shown in a tree format because this is the best way to. So you start at Kelley Blue Book and you click on recalls, and when you click on the I'm sorry. All right, there we go. When you click on the relationships, it tells you, right, since KBV model and recalls are high, it is going to look at high. And you could also go in there and set manual relationships. But this is what the enterprise data graph gives you. It gives you the ability to look at all these sources and how it is discover these relationships automatically. And this is using these relationships is how analytics are created. And so we bring, and you saw the manual, we bring that analytics without doing a lot of ETL. I want to show you kind of a root cause analysis using this. So if we start at the, let's say we'll start at parts database, and we'll click enterprise data graph. From the parts database, you can go and say, okay, what are the complaints that are coming in from parts? And it tells me to go from parts to complaints. You could use these fields, and year and make are the most. And then if we wanted to go traverse to investigation, and then if we wanted to go traverse to recalls, and then if we wanted to traverse to suppliers, doing this analysis, if we clicked on every single link, it will show you how we move from one source to another. This kind of is the way you would do your root cause analysis. You would take your parts, you would look at the complaints from the parts, and you look at the investigations, and you look at which ones became recalled, and you see which suppliers were the ones that are causing the recall. So the enterprise data graph, gives you the power to do root cause type analysis easily, and when you actually in typical sense, you would actually create dashboards on parts and then bring in complaints, bring in investigations, recall suppliers, etc. And this would kind of give you is a value that we're able to do for our customers. Another Musion capability that really reduces the ETL is this whole capability of search. Since we bring the data as is from the sources and run algorithms to create enterprise data graph, what you actually get is this interface to just search for anything. So, and I like to search for error because I'm really interested in what's going on with the airbags. And when you search for error, you see the key value airbags as well as other keywords come out. Just like Google, it actually gives you everything that has air in it, like lifetime air limited warranty, cold air intake, and then airbags is on top because their airbags were most relevant and it appeared the most in all of our data sets. So just like Google, you get the most relevant websites, or in this case, you get the most relevant keywords with airbags because airbags appeared in complaints, component description, investigations, parts, and recalls. For example, if I wanted to see complaints about airbags, I would click on complaints here, and it would automatically scour what dashboards were using complaints database and the component description field. In this case, we went to manufacturer's overview. You will see a trend, and this actually did manufacturer's overview, I believe, is from a complaints database, and the complaints database is MySQL, and I believe it actually did a live query, and you can see the trend of what's going on with airbags. Airbags have been slowly but rising in the industry, and there was some problem with General Motors, and they handled it in 2014 to 2015. And they also did. Chrysler is having some issues now. When you actually click on the data table, you could actually see the data Musion is looking at. This is the component description that it looked at for airbags, and these are the data. And we are actually live querying the database to get this data. So this kind of helps your analysts really look at the data as well as look at the trends, right? And in this manner, everything is live, right? Let's say we just were interested in Toyota airbag issues, and if we click on Toyota, it shows you in a nice way how Toyota is working, right? How airbag issues are slowly but surely arising in Toyota as well. The other aspect of Musion that's kind of interesting is this whole aspect of data chain. How data chain works is that you're able to go from one source system to another source system. When you click on the data chain, it actually, a lot of these dashboards or pages are based on single source system. And when we actually go into voice of customer, the data chain, what it did is it says voice of customer is based on Edmunds database. And in Edmunds database, Toyota, to look at everything about Toyota, you need to look at the field called make and spell Toyota this way. And this all comes from the intelligence of building an enterprise data graph. And once you do that, it actually brings in that data and allows you to see. And this is kind of interesting is because it allows you to see not only sales but complaints, and then complaints. As complaint numbers go up, sales are going down. So complaints are a leading indicator to what's going to happen to sale, and they're inversely related is shown here. If we go into data chain again, and if we go into quality overview, it takes the value Toyota, and it actually converted it into Toyota and Golf Toyota. This is the beauty of having a enterprise data graph, because it knows similar values. Golf Toyota and Toyota probably mean the same thing. And then the recalls, one of the fusion aspect of fusion is in a single dashboard like this, you could actually load a bunch of different sources onto it. This one came from Oracle, this one came from Elasticsearch, this one came from MySQL. These came from multiple databases, as you see, recalls and sales. These came from complaints and sales. And then on the bottom, these are from other as well. Now we could take this analysis as farther and say, okay, I know that we have some Toyota in Toyota, Camry, Corolla, and Sienna, and RAV4 and Prius are the most. I'm really interested in Camry and Corolla. I want to know what, go into a different database, and I want to know what voice of the customers are. So we know there's the most complaints in California, and then there's Texas, and then Florida. But interesting thing is that Camry became Camry Hybrid, Camry Solara, as well as Camry and Corolla. This is data chain at its best, right? Being able to identify what users are talking about and move from one source of data to another source of data easily without, really making the users do ETL. Because in the typical sense, you would have to ETL Camry Hybrid, Camry Solara, and Camry meaning Camry, or your numbers would not come out correctly. Finally, I do want to get back into the Data Studios aspect and show you that how we went from voice of customers to recalls, right? So if we started at recall, and let's go here, and if we go into complaints, way it goes from recalls and complaints is it's actually looking at columns, these columns, and it's going to pick the ones that, since we use component description, this is what it used to join those. And when we go further down, go to either investigations, it's going to look at probably a component name or a model in this way when we went to Camry. So what Musion does is it looks at the columns, and it looks at how the linkages are occurring. It allows you to go from one source to another source. The only aspect that why we say we're reducing ETL is we do not transform or really load data into a single source. All these queries are live, and we are actually moving data back and forth from our Musion platform to the underlying systems. And the search capability allows you to do any type of search that allows you to search for your insights easily. I think I kind of flew through it. It is about 40 minutes past an hour. If you do have questions, please raise your hand and put questions in the chat window, as well as let us know. And go back to our final, hold on, slide. So the whole premise of Musion is connecting without doing ETL and leaving data as it is. So it's basically connect your data explore and discover your insights. So thank you for your time this afternoon, and if I'm going to kind of open it up to, I'm going to change to open it up to questions. I think there is a question here. Hold on. Go into Abhijay, could you get back and help me navigate the questions here? You there? How do you detect relationship between sources? So how do you detect relationship sources? Is way you detect the relationship is by looking at the unique values that are inside sources. So you take the unique values and you create an enterprise data graph, and the autonomous correlation algorithm will search through all the unique values and looking at what the entity name is, what the natural language search says, and fuzzy matching says. Is it related? If it is related, it puts those sources together and say they probably mean the same thing. Is this manual data modeling? Yeah, the data modeling, creating what data you want to bring into the enterprise data graph is the data you want to bring into the Musion platform is manual, but however, the autonomous correlation is automatic. Anything else? All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. And if you do have questions, please feel free to ask for a demo and send questions our way, and we'll be able to answer them after on a timely manner. Thank you guys so much.